So someone else who might be moving around, I hope not, but is Lamar Jackson. There's going to be a conversation about Lamar Jackson on probably every show for the next 6 months when we're discussing what's going to happen with him and the Ravens. And the more I talk about Lamar Jackson and his contract situation, the more I'm on Lamar's side. I don't have sympathy for teams who act funny when it's time to pay the quarterback. They're like confused. Oh my God, I didn't know I had to write a check to the franchise quarterback. How did this happen? Do we budget for this? I don't understand teams that act like they don't know what the market is. I know what the market is for the quarterback. You should definitely know what the price is for a franchise quarterback. They always act funny. It's new. It's a shock that it's their turn to pay the quarterback. Unless it's an organization that's planned for it, and then we find out when the check is signed with Patrick Mahomes. The conversation around the Ravens is, are they a team that can win without a franchise quarterback? Because they've done it before. They did it with Trent Dilfer, and they did it with Joe Flacco. To me, that was a different time. That was a different era. We have no evidence in the last 10 years, specifically the last Ravens Super Bowl, that you can win without a franchise quarterback. Let's just take a look at the Super Bowl winners over the last 10 years. Russell Wilson, Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, Nick Foles, Patrick Mahomes, Matthew Stafford. Now, you might be able to pitch me Peyton Manning was not the catalyst for that, but I'm not going to go as far as to say that Peyton Manning wasn't somewhat responsible for that Super Bowl run, and is not a franchise quarterback. The really only outlier that you have here is Nick Foles. And is that what you're going to plan for? You're going to plan to be the outlier? It just doesn't make sense to me. Those Ravens teams were built differently. Even if you have a defense that you can rely on, which they do. They had the number 3 scoring defense this year. When Roquan Smith was added around week 9, they gave up 14.7 points per game, second only to the Niners, who also, by the way, didn't win a championship because they don't have a franchise quarterback. The problem is your offense also has to score. So it's great that you're holding opposing offenses to a very low number, but then your offense has to score more points than their offense. That's how it works. This is the modern NFL. Do you really feel comfortable going out there scoring 12.5 points per game? How great is your defense going to have to be every day? With Lamar Jackson, they average 25 points per game. Without, 12.5. He wins 74% of his regular season games. They're the second worst offense in the league without Lamar Jackson. I don't get the concept of not keeping Lamar Jackson. Why would I consider you to be contenders without a franchise quarterback in the modern NFL? I understand if you've done it before. I understand the teams are trying to do it now. That's why I brought up the Niners. The Niners don't have a franchise quarterback. They don't win a Super Bowl. Did they go to the Super Bowl? No. And why? Because they didn't have a quarterback. I understand the quarterbacks were injured, but guess who did that to them? The opposing defense. I can't wrap my mind around the Ravens being a contender, a true contender, without Lamar Jackson. And I understand that the market is outrageous because of Deshaun Watson, but that's not Lamar Jackson's responsibility. And if he's hell-bent on matching that or getting an entirely guaranteed contract, perhaps it's a different conversation. But I have to imagine that he wants a long-term deal with a lot of guaranteed money that you can structure in a way that keeps him in the building and keeps you as actual championship contenders. To me, if you don't have a franchise quarterback, I don't consider you to be a contender. And maybe that's good enough for the Ravens. Maybe that's good enough for some organizations to just be in the playoffs and just be in contention for the division, and that's enough. But if you want to win a Super Bowl, you've got to have Patrick Mahomes, Tom Brady, Matthew Stafford, Russell Wilson, Peyton Manning, or you can bet on Nick Foles, which, look, worked out for the Eagles. But I don't know that I want to try to be the outlier. I want to try to be the rule, particularly if I want to build an organization that's going to be there year after year in contention for the Super Bowl. So I say try and figure it out with Lamar Jackson. You're going to need to score more than 12.5 points per game to win in today's NFL. I know Niners fans don't think I like them very much. That is not true. I think the Niners are a great organization, and I love when the Niners are competitive. I think the NFL is better when teams like the Niners are competitive. They're always competitive, though, and they always lack a quarterback. That is the theme with the Niners. Even when they had a quarterback in Jimmy Garoppolo, they weren't sure about him and then moved on to Trey Lance. They never have a quarterback. I bang the drum about this all the time. I was just talking about the Ravens. It's really great design to have an awesome roster. I think it's very important to have an awesome roster. Look at what happened in the Super Bowl. Almost everyone felt that the Philadelphia Eagles had the better roster, had the better team after the quarterback. And by the way, Jalen Hurts was an all-pro. They lost because of what? Patrick Mahomes. It's the quarterback. It's always the quarterback. All season long, everyone was telling me about the San Francisco 49ers. And I love the Niners, but they don't have a quarterback. And I don't want to hear about how they got knocked out in the playoffs. They got knocked out. It's not like they missed the flight. They were removed from the game by the other team's defense. You need to have a healthy quarterback. It's just what it is. I'm right. I'm right about this. You have to have a franchise quarterback, and they've got to be healthy. That's just the way it goes. If you want to win a Super Bowl, which is what the San Francisco 49ers are attempting to do, that's what has to happen. And life comes at you fast, because for a brief shining moment, we thought that they were going to get away with the Trey Lance possibly not being the guy thing. And then Brock Purdy gets injured, and he still hasn't had surgery. Tom Pelissero of NFL Media said that Purdy had a pre-op visit, and because of inflammation, they can't have the surgery right now. He has to have surgery on his elbow, and that's getting pushed back, and that delays his return. So as great as he played, he might not be available to start the season. As Albert Breer just mentioned, this is a very critical time for Trey Lance, and Jimmy Garoppolo is probably not going to be there next year. So once again, you're in the exact same situation that you were at the beginning of the season. You just have less backups available to you. The Niners have an injury problem as well. They have the most games missed to injury and illness since 2017 in the league. 1,485. They have a lot of things that have to go their way. They're a constantly injured team. That's the number. Like I didn't make that up. I'm not imagining that they are constantly injured. They are an always injured team. They don't have a franchise quarterback. And despite how great the roster is and how great the coaching is every single year, they fall short. And in my opinion, it's because they have not solved the quarterback position. We constantly talk about the Niners as they're the team that it's not a quarterback-driven team. All the teams are quarterback-driven teams. All of them. Every team. All the teams that you can name in the NFL are quarterback-driven teams. All of it. Stop saying that, please. Please stop saying it. It's just factually inaccurate. If you are talking about being a Super Bowl contender, you've got to have a quarterback. You have to have one. If you want to make the playoffs, if you want to win a playoff game, if you want to be competitive and cute, that's fine. You don't need a quarterback. But you've got to have a franchise quarterback who is healthy and available if you want to win a Super Bowl. I feel like I'm saying something that's very obvious, but I'm constantly getting pushback on this when it comes to the Niners, and it's just not true. And now you're in a situation with Trey Lance, as Albert Breer mentioned, that you really have to find out if he's the guy, and you got to find out immediately. And while we moved off of the conversation of whether this was a huge mistake that set the team back because of all the picks that they used on him, because of how Brock Purdy was playing, now Brock Purdy is injured, and he's not going to be out there for a while. He hasn't even had surgery yet to begin the rehab to get back out there. It's concerning, and it's why when we talk about these Super Bowl windows with teams with great rosters and great situations, they never last as long as you think they do for any number of reasons. It's just, I'm going to be watching this team very closely this offseason. I think Trey Lance can do it, but we haven't seen or heard anything that positive about the situation to be sure about it.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.